Hey, I'm Felissa Rose, and you're watching Keto and Crime.
Hey everyone, welcome to a Keto and Crime Classic. Being that my neck is still giving me some issues, it will take me a little while to fully record and finish editing the Diane Downs, as well as the Shafarian video, so it may just be a few more days, maybe even this weekend before that comes out. I just wanted to let you know. But in the meantime, I thought I would upload a classic video that I did way back when. This is a pre-recording. I don't know what was going on with my hair in here. I had a huge swoop going on that leaves me open to ridicule. But I thought I would go back in time and look at the story of John and Lorena Bobbitt. This is a tragedy, of course, and I know that my thumbnail is all kinds of wrong, but I was just feeling a bit jolly and thought it might lighten the mood a little bit because this is serious. This deals with domestic abuse. This also deals with mutilation. And I found this case very interesting as a teenager, and I still find it very interesting to this day. So with that being said, let's jump in to a Keto and Crime Classic, Lorena Bobbitt. And but first, a quick word from a new sponsor here on the channel, Keto and Crisp. And with that being said, let's dive into the Bobbitt story. Hey everyone, I want to tell you about a great new sponsor for the channel, Keto Crisp. They reached out to me wanting to help me get back on my keto journey. As you know, I've had some issues, and they know that sweets are a problem for me. So I have partnered with them after sampling them, and they are really good bars. I highly recommend them. Filling, not too sweet, but just sweet enough. So if you're on a keto or a carnivore or low-carb lifestyle, they are the perfect bar. But moreover, what I want to talk about is the company itself. Adam Brennan is the founder, and he has suffered from cerebral palsy as well as obesity most of his life, and yet he still persevered and founded his own company. I think just the whole Keto Crisp brand is a monument to the human spirit, and I just wanted to point that out, that I only choose to partner with brands that I really believe in. I both believe in their product, I believe in Adam, and I really believe in their motto. It's about what you can do, not what you can't. And with that being said, I'm proud to welcome a new sponsor to the channel. You can try them out for a 20% discount. Just like most keto bars, they're a bit pricier than the junk you're going to find in the supermarket, but well worth it. And so you can get 20% off using my discount code, which I will link down in the description below. And I look forward to doing many more collaborations with Keto Crisp. Thank you so much, everyone. And today we're going to cover a very comical and weird story. The story of John and Lorena Bobbitt. So I hope you guys are ready for one knife point of a good time. Let's get into it. First of all, I want to preface, I would normally make fun of a crime of any sort, but this one was so unusual, and it was the, brunt of so many jokes and stuff. When I was a kid, I couldn't help but make the little knife joke. I think one of those will be my thumbnail. Anyway, I want to preface this entire story by saying I don't think either of these people are good people. Normally, when I cover a crime case, one rises to the top as actually being the decent one. Not so much in this. I think both of these people had some problems, and they were just two problemed individuals who got together, and it ended in tragedy. So, yeah, we're gonna delve into that. So let's get started. Lorena Bobbitt was born Lorena Gallo, October 31st, 1970, in Bouquet, Ecuador. Her and her family relocated to Venezuela when she was a small child, and she was raised there. eventually immigrating herself to the United States in the early 80s, mid to early 80s. When she was about 18 years old, she came to the United States and enrolled in a local community college in the Virginia, Maryland area, near Washington, D.C. John Wayne Bobbit was born March 23rd, 1967, near Buffalo, Erie County, New York, in the Niagara Falls area. Had a pretty standard American upbringing, liked to play sports, didn't do so well in school, so he, at the age of 18, enlisted in the United States Marine Corps. And it was the United States Marine Corps that brought he and Lorena together. Lorena came to the United States looking for the American dream, literally. She said that in many interviews. Many people that knew her at the time said that that's what she was after. She heard about the fact that if you just wanted to make it in the USA, you could. And I think by and large that is still true today. So she came, like so many people, searching for that American dream. And she did come. She enrolled in a Northern Virginia community college, really find out what she was studying. There's not a whole lot on either of these people's young lives, but she did enroll in college to take some general education courses and started working as a manicurist in a hair salon belonging to a local woman in the Northern Virginia college area named 𝐻𝐤. Now, they got along quite well. Jana kind of took her under her arm, kind of taught her about business, how to provide good customer service, and kind of introduced her to the area. Now, Lorena held Jana up as the picture-perfect person that had achieved her American dream. Jana owned a couple of businesses. Her husband was well off. So they had a very large house. She drove luxury automobiles. She had, big boy, big girl toys, boats and ATVs and stuff like that. Stuff that would really look to a young immigrant like Lorena that she had made it. So this is what Lorena aspired to be. And she knew she probably wasn't going to make that studying general education at a local community college and doing nails in a hair salon. So she set out to kind of find a companion, somebody with equal dreams and desires that might help them both achieve that dream. She started going out to social events and kind of fell in with the federal employee and military crowd at nearby Quantico, Virginia. Now, if you don't know about Quantico, it's just outside Washington, D.C. It's the home of the FBI Academy. It's also home to a huge Naval and Marine Corps base. And that is where, at a local dance event, she met John Wayne Bobbit, who at the time was a young Lance Corporal. He had been in the military, been in the Marine Corps a couple of years by now, had advanced to the rank of Lance Corporal, which if you go into the Marine Corps, my dad was a Marine Corps, so I can kind of speak to this. Start out as a slick sleeve or a buck private. You move up to private, then private first class, then after that is Lance Corporal, before you actually get up to a full 2-bar corporal. And he had advanced to that rank. Normally it's given to 3rd or 4th year enlistees that have maintained good record of training. They've passed all their training, they're well behaved, and normally it's just something that happens with time. So he had advanced to that rank, by all accounts doing pretty well in the Marine Corps, and she saw this military man as somebody that could be a good partner. And for the longest time, they seemed to be in love. She was, a beautiful young South American Latino girl. He was a, very handsome Marine Corps, Marine that was on his way up. They appeared to be in love. They were nice to each other. They were charming. Everybody said, oh, this is a good match. And eventually, June 18th, 1989, after dating for about a year, they got married. However, the marriage went south very quickly. For a few months, it was good. He stayed in the Marine Corps, did his best to get promoted. She continued to work at Jana's salon, earning a decent wage, going to college, and for a long time it seemed that they would be able to build a future together. However, according to separate accounts, Lorena became obsessed with achieving the American dream that she thought she deserved. That is, to achieve the status of Jana. She began to harp on John a lot about making more money, about perhaps working a second job, which is not exactly something you can do while you're in the military. I served a couple of years in the Army myself. I don't recall there ever being freedom to work a second job, but maybe I'm wrong. He started to drink heavily and do drugs. They started to fight quite a bit. There was a lot of physical fighting between the two of them. They would strike each other, choke each other. Not good. 911 was called several times by each of them during the course of their marriage. John eventually left the Marine Corps during the course of their marriage and became unemployed. According to Lorena, he wasn't looking for a job, he wasn't looking to go to school or use his GI Bill or any of that. He just sort of sat on the couch, drank, did drugs, and they fought. So the stress of being the only breadwinner was something that reminded her of the poverty that she lived in Venezuela. So she started to resent him, resent her life, and realized that she had to do something because they were starting to fall way behind on their bills, including the mortgage on their very modest little 2-bedroom house that they had purchased. So she did the unthinkable. She embezzled about $7,200 from Busetti's shop, the shop where she did nails. She did this by pocketing money that, like, she got tips, but she would also, instead of putting the cost of, like, Jana had sort of cut her a deal, whereas in most places when you work in another person's salon, if you're a beautician or a esthetician doing nails, or a makeup person, cosmetologist or something like that, you rent a booth. So you get to keep you charge the salon's prices, you keep that as well as any tips that come back, and you pay rent on that booth, that space, to do your trade inside their establishment. You pay them rent. Some salons also charge a percentage off the top of what you were making. Well, Lorena was kind of fudging what she was taking in and keeping more than she should have. And in that way, she embezzled about $7,200 from Busetti, as well as taking money from the register. Because, if you're in a salon, anybody will sometimes come up to the register and take the bill. She was, skimming off the top that way too. When somebody would come in and get a haircut, she would sometimes run the register to help out when they were busy, and she would take some of that money too. So this was before credit cards were used for everything. Got to remember, this was late 80s, early 90s, before plastic was king. It was still cash. So there was a lot more opportunity for somebody unscrupulous to take money off the top in a business. So that's what she was doing. And when she was caught by Busetti, who did not press charges, she simply told her, she did call the police, did file a report, but chose not to press charges. She told her that she was just trying to keep their house from going into foreclosure. And because Jana looked at her as a daughter, she kind of forgave her and told her she could work off the debt by remaining employed in the salon. But they quickly cut away all her ability to use the register and stuff. So she had to start working that debt off. As you can imagine, that led to a lot of strain in the Bobbitt marriage. There was a lot of fighting. Police was called a couple more times for physical altercations. John accused Lorena of just wanting him for a green card, because if you're married to a U.S. citizen, if you're an immigrant married to a U.S. citizen, you have to remain married to them at least 5 years to keep your green card, to get and keep your green card. They had been married 4 years, so John was very vocal about him believing Lorena was only using him for a green card. So in 1991, kind of boiled over, and they ended up separating, but reconciled later that same year. And again, back to a tumultuous marriage, which finally did pass 5 years so that Lorena did get her green card. All the while still fighting. Lorena still struggling to pay the bills because John was still unemployed and not really looking to advance his future at all. And finally we get to the fateful night, June 23rd, 1993. That night, John went out drinking with his friend Robert Johnston, who was also staying in the house. And it wasn't clear whether he was paying any rent or not, so maybe Lorena was providing for 2 deadbeat men about this time. So he went out drinking. They both came home drunk. Robert went to the living room where he had been sleeping. John went into the bedroom where Lorena was already asleep. And here's where the accounts get fuzzy. According to John, they had consensual sex. He fell asleep and woke up later, you know how. According to Lorena, she was asleep. John forced himself on her and raped her. Now, what you have to remember about everybody that screams, a man can't rape his wife, yes. You can. A wife can also rape her husband. If there's ever no involved, that's exactly what it means. No. And if you're a real man or a real woman, you shouldn't want to force yourself on anybody. Just my opinion. However, this was not the first time Lorena had accused John of forcing her to do things that she didn't want to do. She was forced, she said, regularly into doing sex acts that she didn't want to do, such as anal. She was forced into forced oral, things that she normally wouldn't want to do. And so this was on record with some of the 911 calls that had come in earlier to the Bobbit residence. So, June 23rd, 1993. Robert Johnston asleep in the living room, John Wayne Bobbit in the bedroom. A sex act took place. According to Lorena, it was forced rape. According to him, it was consensual. Sometime in the middle of the night, Lorena woke up. She said she got up to go get a drink of water, and that's the last thing she remembers. She said she blacked out and woke up in a car driving with a member next to her on the seat of the car. So basically, she got up, went into the kitchen to get a drink of water, saw an ordinary kitchen knife laying there. When I say ordinary, it's an ordinary small steak knife or paring knife, just like this one. Hers had a jagged edge. This one doesn't, but the little jags for cutting. She went back into the bedroom where her husband was sleeping in a alcohol-induced sleep, so it was pretty deep. She took his pee-pee and she basically cut it. You get the idea. Not going to demonstrate. She drove to her good friend Jana Viscetti's house. While going there, she threw the pee-pee out the window to a field near a 7-Eleven. Now, she went on to her friend's house. Her friend saw she was covered in blood, started to question her. She told her what she had just thrown out the window, but even though she said she doesn't remember doing it. Her friend called the police. They came. They took her into custody. They started searching for the pee-pee. They found it in that same field near the 7-Eleven. They took it to the Prince William Hospital where Johnston had taken John Bobbit a short time before, and there it was reattached by 2 surgeons who did a 9-hour surgery, meticulously reattached his member. A urologist by the name of Dr. James Seen and a plastic surgeon by the name of Dr. David Berman reattached Little John to Big John with no standing ill effects, except I can only imagine what was excruciating pain. After that, the investigation started. John Wayne Bobbit contended yes, he was drunk, but he had consensual sex with his wife. Then he fell asleep and woke up with her removing his little John. She contended that she was raped, and
remembered waking up to go get a glass of water and console herself, and then blacks out and doesn't remember anything until she's driving to Jane Bassetti's house and throws little John out the window. Basically, on November 11th, 1993, a jury of 9 women and 3 men found John not guilty of sexual assault or rape. 2 months later, January 24th, 1994, another jury found Lorena not guilty by reason of insanity because she supposedly blacked out, and neither of them served any time for any of these crimes. Basically, it was a draw. I think the Commonwealth of Virginia just wanted to get this off the books because it was such an unusual crime. For those of you wondering, the makeup of that second jury that found Lorena Bobbitt not guilty by reason of insanity was 7 women and 5 men. So, each had a healthy balance of, in fact, the jury that found John not guilty of rape was heavily women. So, there was no, there was no prejudice here, in my opinion. Except that, like I've said before, when you're in this kind of a high-profile case, because this was on every news network, every talk show, every late-night comedian, it would be very hard for anybody to get a fair jury because of the news coverage. You've heard my opinion on that. I think news should be very neutral when a crime occurs, just say what happened, and then during the trial, if they want to cover the trial, that's fine, but in that way you're not going to taint a jury if you start the opinions during the trial. Okay, fine, as long as the jury's sequestered, but that's another video for another day. So basically, of course, they divorced. Both of them went their own way. John Wayne Bobbit moved out to Las Vegas in California for a while. He met Ron Jeremy of adult film fame at the Playboy Mansion, and Ron Jeremy offered to produce an adult film starring John Wayne Bobbit, and it ended up being one of the best-selling porn flicks of all time, John Wayne Bobbit Uncut. He said the only reason he did it is that A, he didn't really have any job prospects at the time, still kind of just couch surfing and whatnot, and porn pays pretty well, and also he wanted to prove to the world little John worked, so there was that.
Basically on my whole life. I mean, a little background on my before I got married, and a little bit about my marriage, and then the attack, and then the trials, and basically what happened. And I want to get that side out of it, and then, of course, I just, basically show everybody that I'm healed and fully functional. Well, I couldn't say that. I'm not fully healed yet, but I still can have sex, and it doesn't leak.
He later on got a male enhancement surgery, courtesy of Mr. Howard Stern, after he went on Howard Stern's radio program. Ended up making a second adult film with Ron Jeremy as producer called Frankenpenis because of the extension. That did moderately well. He was then hired by the world-famous Moonlight Bunny Ranch as a door guard and bodyguard to the girls. He was hired and fired several times because of drunken behavior with the girls. If you don't know what the Moonlight Bunny Ranch, it's the legal brothel in the desert of Nevada, outside Las Vegas. He also ended up pleading guilty in 1999 to attempted a theft of $140,000 worth of designer clothes from a Las Vegas boutique, and went through a case where a woman claimed that her baby was his. He said it wasn't. Paternity test revealed that it was 99.9% certainty that he was the father. I don't know if they went on Maury. I doubt it, but there you have it. He also married twice more. Once to Dottie Brewer, a writer. Once to Joanna Farrell, a producer. And both of them accused... Dottie was only married to him for 13 days, and she ended up writing a book about her 13 days married to John Bobbit. It was not pleasant. He was convicted of assaulting Joanna Farrell, so let's just say this man's proclivities for violence were well established. I can't say whether he did anything to Lorena, but leads me to believe there was perhaps some stuff going on. In the late 1990s, he suffered a broken neck as a result of a car accident, but he did fully recover. Now he spends most of his time around Las Vegas treasure hunting and doing the occasional reality shows such as Celebrity Boxing, where he went up against �ㄽ𝐤𝐫𝐫𝐞𝐽. So that's the life of John Wayne Bobbit. Let's move on to where Lorena's been. She did return to her maiden name, Gallo, or �㞉𝐤. She spent time in a psychiatric facility immediately after her trial. She did move in with her parents, who had immigrated to the United States. They came to be with her in the D.C., Virginia area. She did attempt to sell the movie rights to her crime, but that kind of fell through. No one was really interested. In 1997, she got into a physical fight with her mother, 𝐓𝐢𝐬 Gallo, and was found and had a whole assault charge leading against her, even though that was kind of settled out of court, so to speak. She has since turned her life around, still very close with her immediate family. She met a man by the name of David Bellinger not long after this happened. They've been together for over 20 years. They have a 13-year-old daughter. They've never married. They still live in the Northern Virginia area. They say that they probably won't get married because as an institution, they really don't believe in marriage anymore. So there's that. Jordan Peele of �:𝐭𝐬 the comedy skit show, as well as the producer of the great horror films like Us and Get Out. Super great horror films. Check them out. He has produced an Amazon Prime documentary about the Bobbit case called Lorena. So I highly recommend checking that out. It's great. I read several books about this, and all in all, just a very interesting case. It's pretty cut and dry, though. Pretty cut and dry. Sorry, I gotta stop that. I know, but oftentimes there's not a whole lot of cases I can have fun with, but this one is one that I could, because aside from the pain and suffering that Mr. Bobbit went through, he fully recovered and has made millions of dollars off his ordeal. So I don't really feel bad poking a little fun at a case that no one died. So there you go. But I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you enjoyed the new setup. I'm going to be improving it as we go along. Thank you so much to those of you that have donated to me via PayPal. It means a lot. All of that went into this camera. It's not the most expensive camera in the world, but it's and ring light setup, but it's enough to get us started. I will continue to try to improve the channel as I can. Thank you so much. Like, comment, share, subscribe. If you want to support the channel, links to all my Patreon and all Cash App, PayPal, all that's below. But most of all, just watch, like, comment, subscribe. 𝐬𝐤 𝐐𝐫𝐫𝐞𝐬. Out.